Okay, so you want to really get a feel for Chiang Mai Old City, right? But
Right.
you don't have a ton of time to wade through like, long articles or anything like that.
Yeah, definitely.
So that's what we're doing today. We're
Yeah.
taking this, firsthand account of a trip someone took to Chiang Mai Old City in March 2024.
Okay, cool.
And we're going to, really dive into it and see what we can learn.
Yeah, great.
So,
Because this is a really cool place to look at for
yeah,
all sorts of reasons.
yeah,
I mean, Chiang Mai itself actually just means new city in Thai, which is kind of funny.
yeah.
But it was actually founded all the way back in 1296
Wow.
as the capital of the Lan Na Kingdom.
Okay.
And the Lan Na Kingdom was a pretty big deal for a few centuries, actually.
Okay.
It was a really significant independent power in northern Thailand.
So like its own kingdom.
Yeah, exactly. Its own kingdom. And in 2017, it was actually recognized by UNESCO for its historical and cultural importance.
That's a big deal.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So we're looking at a place that has a ton of history and cultural significance.
A lot going on there.
A lot going on there. Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's jump in.
Okay.
So this person's account starts out with some first impressions.
Yeah.
And the first thing that is really obvious about the old city is that it's a perfect square.
Okay. Interesting.
It's about a mile on each side.
So it's like a really,
Like a really distinct layout.
yeah, very intentional.
And it wasn't just like an aesthetic choice or anything. It was actually a defensive design.
Oh, interesting.
They built it like that so that it would be easier to defend.
Makes sense.
Yeah, with walls and a moat and, they had to keep invaders out somehow.
Yeah, back then.
Right. And you can actually still see parts of those walls in the moat today.
Oh, wow.
Some of them are in ruins.
Okay.
And some of them have been reconstructed.
Right.
But the person who wrote this account specifically mentions that the East Side and Taipei Gate don't really feel that ancient.
So, like, they're not quite as well preserved or...
Yeah. It sounds like maybe they've done more reconstruction on that side or...
Right. Yeah, that's interesting because it makes you think about what it really means to preserve history in a city that people are still living in.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you balance the need for modern stuff
Right.
with keeping things, historically accurate and feeling old?
Yeah, it's a tricky balance.
It is.
And I think it's cool that they point that out because it's something to think about.
Yeah, it is.
So this visitor starts their exploration at Chiang Mai Gate, and that leads them onto a street called Propokola Road.
Okay.
And the sun is starting to set as they're walking, but there's like a noticeable haze in the air.
Like a smog or something.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, this was March, so I don't know if that's a time when they would have fires or anything like that.
Yeah, could be.
But the thing that really stands out to them is all the ratchafruit.
Ratchafruit, what is that?
It's the golden shower tree.
Oh, okay.
It's Thailand's national tree and flower.
Oh, wow. So it's like a really important symbol.
Yeah, very
Okay.
important. And they were everywhere, apparently. I
Mm.
mean, along the drive from the airport, around their hotel.
Just like a really common tree then.
Yeah, sounds like it. And they were especially noticeable around this one temple called Wat Chedi Luang.
I love that name.
Wat Chedi Luang, yeah. And apparently these blooms are like super bright yellow.
Okay.
And they really stand out against, the historical buildings and stuff, especially in the heat.
Yeah, it was over 100 degrees, right?
Yeah, in late March.
Wow.
It was the hot season.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's like, having that pop of color against, old historical stuff kind of reminds you that these places aren't frozen in time,
Yeah.
It's like nature is still doing its thing there. It's
Yeah.
alive.
Right.
Yeah, and I wonder, the ratchafruit being like a national symbol and all,
Yeah.
if it has like even more significance than that, maybe it ties into like local traditions or something, or the timing of certain festivals.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean,
Yeah.
we don't know from this account, but maybe.
Yeah, who knows?
Yeah. So the next thing they talk about is temples,
Okay.
which are called wats in Thai.
Watts, okay.
Yeah. And actually, it's the same in Cambodia and Laos.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So if you ever travel to those countries, you'll see that word too.
Good to know.
Yeah. So they mention a couple of wats briefly, like Wat Jet Lin and Wat Nguyen Tom. But the one that they really focus on is Wat Chedi Long,
Okay.
which is apparently one of the most famous wats in all of Thailand.
Wow.
Yeah. And it used to be a royal burial site.
Okay, so this is like a really important place.
Very important.
Historically.
Yeah. And there's this big stupa there, which is also called a chedi.
Okay.
And it's like this dome-shaped structure, and they often have relics in them.
Okay.
And it's like a really prominent feature in a lot of Buddhist temples.
Gotcha.
But in this case, the stupa was viewable but closed to tourists.
Oh, bummer.
Yeah. But, I mean, even just seeing it, it's such an important historical site.
Right, the fact that it was a royal burial site really tells you something about, how important this place was.
Yeah.
And the power dynamics of the Lan Na kingdom,
Yeah.
like who got to be buried there and stuff.
Right, and the architecture, too.
Yeah,
It's just impressive, even if you can't go inside.
for sure.
So they talk about all these decorative elements, too.
Okay, what's that kind of stuff?
Like elephant sculptures, which were everywhere.
That's cool.
Yeah. And then these really impressive Naga figures.
Nagas.
Yeah, those are the snake gods.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And they were all along the staircase leading up to the shrine.
I've seen pictures of those. They're really cool.
They're really cool. And they're considered guardians of Buddha.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I mean, you can't help but wonder about the deeper meaning behind all that,
Yeah, for sure. I mean, elephants in Thai culture are like a huge deal.
Right.
They represent strength and stability
Yeah.
and even royalty sometimes.
Yeah. So it makes sense that they would be all over the temple.
And the Nagas, in the Lan Na tradition, they're often associated with like water sources and fertility too. So it's like there's this connection between the sacredness of the temple and the well-being of the land itself.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
So within the Wat Chetty Luang complex,
Eh.
there's also this thing called the City Pillar,
Okay.
or Lak Muying.
Like Hamir.
Yeah. And it's believed to offer protection to the town.
So like a spiritual protection kind of thing.
Yeah, and there's this giant tree right next to it.
Really?
Yeah, which really kind of emphasizes its importance.
Right.
But one thing that's interesting is that women aren't allowed inside the shrine.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, which is kind of a specific cultural practice.
Right.
Definitely noting.
Yeah, the city pillar is a really cool example of how like local beliefs
Yeah.
can mix with Buddhism,
Yeah.
which you see a lot in Southeast Asia.
Yeah, for sure.
And, the restriction on women entering, that's just like a local tradition that's developed over time.
Right.
I mean, we could probably do a whole deep dive on that,
Yeah, we could.
but another time.
Another time. So, okay. So
Yeah.
they also mention seeing a golden statue of this monk named Kruba Siwachai.
Krubasuwachai.
Okay. And he's like a super revered Thai Buddhist monk.
Okay.
And he actually built a lot of temples in the region.
Oh, wow. So he was like a really important figure.
Yeah, very important.
Okay.
And the notes say that they saw his statue all over the place.
That makes sense then if he built so many temples.
Right.
I mean, his influence on northern Thailand must have been huge.
Yeah, for sure.
Especially in terms of religion.
Yeah.
Oh.
So the next stop was Wat Phra Sing,
Wafra Singh.
and they visited this one at night.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and they say that it was just like
What
stunning.
was it like?
All these massive golden pagodas and Buddha images
Wow.
all lit up.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it sounds really grand and almost mystical.
Yeah, I bet.
And the person who wrote these notes said they felt like they were the only person there, except for another statue of Kruba Siwachai
Of course.
at the entrance.
He's everywhere.
Right.
That's so cool, though, seeing those historical sites at night. Yeah. It's like a whole different experience,
Yeah.
The way the light plays on buildings and stuff, it's got to be amazing.
Yeah, I bet. And it probably feels even more, connected to the past somehow.
Yeah, for sure.
So just like at Wat Chetty Luang, there were also elephants all over the place at Wat Phra Sing.
Really?
Yeah, they were on all sides of the square base of the large pagoda.
Okay, so we're really seeing like a common theme here with the elephants.
Right.
It's like I said, it's a really important symbol for them.
Yeah, for sure.
Must be like a visual signature of the Lan Na region,
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
So on their way to the next temple, which was Wat Chiang Man,
Okay.
they passed by this thing called the Three Kings Monument.
Okay.
But it's described as being pretty small, so they don't really say much about it. But then they get to Wat Chiang Man, and this is another temple from the 13th century.
Wow. Another old one.
Yeah, and this one has a chedi that houses ancient Buddha and elephant statues.
Okay, so we're seeing some more common themes here.
Right.
The Chedis, the elephants.
Exactly, and they actually point out that it's similar to Wat Chetty Luang.
In terms of the layout.
Yeah, the temple, the chedi, the Naga figures,
Okay.
but it's all on a smaller scale.
So like a mini version.
Yeah, kind of. And then there were these white Nagas at a smaller temple near the chedi.
Oh, wow. So even within those common elements, there's still some variation.
Yeah, and it makes you think about what those variations mean.
Yeah. Sure.
Like, why are these Nagas white instead of whatever color the other ones were?
Yeah, like, does that mean something specific?
Right, and it's cool that they point that out because it just adds like another layer to the whole thing.
Totally. It's like each temple has its own little unique story to tell.
Yeah, and those little details are what makes it so interesting.
Sure.
So speaking of, different details, they also talk about the Buddha statues
Yeah.
and how there's like a lot of variety.
Oh, yeah.
So a lot of them are golden and seated,
Right.
which is what we usually think
Yeah, that's the classic image.
of. Right. But they also saw white ones and green ones
Okay.
and quite a few reclining Buddhas.
Oh, yeah, I've seen those.
Yeah, and they actually explain that the reclining Buddha is supposed to depict Buddha near the end of his life,
Okay.
entering parinirvana,
Nirvana.
which is like a state of ultimate peace and liberation
Nice.
for enlightened beings.
So it's like a representation of the final stage of enlightenment or something.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's cool that they include that little explanation
Yeah, it's helpful.
because it helps you understand like the deeper meaning behind those different statues.
Right. It's like they're not just pretty statues. They're actually telling a story
Yeah, exactly.
and conveying these important spiritual messages.
Yeah, for sure.
Cool.
So next they talk about the moats, and they had kind of a mixed experience with those.
Really? How come?
So the East Moat was kind of a letdown.
Oh, no. What happened?
It had been mostly filled in
Oh.
and turned into like a community park
Okay.
with stalls and stuff.
Huh.
And the wall next to it had been reconstructed.
So it doesn't really have that ancient feel anymore.
Yeah, not really. And I can see why they were disappointed.
Yeah. It's like, sometimes you just got to make way for modern stuff.
Yeah.
But it's sad when it means losing that connection to the past.
Yeah, and it really shows you how, urban development and historical preservation
Yeah.
sometimes clash.
They do, for sure. And it's hard to find that balance.
It is.
Yeah.
But the southeast corner of the moat was actually really cool.
Okay.
It's called Katam Corner,
Katam Corner. Okay.
and it still has its original 13th century brick wall
Wow.
and a big moat.
That's cool.
Yeah, and the only modern thing there was a water fountain.
Okay, so they kept it pretty much intact.
Yeah, which is awesome.
Yeah, that's a much better example of preserving the historical stuff.
Right, and it's cool to see that contrast.
Yeah, it is.
It's like different approaches to how they're handling these historical features.
Right, and I bet being at that Katam Corner
Yeah.
really gives you a sense of what the old city's defenses were like back then.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
they also talk a little bit about practical travel considerations.
Okay, like what?
So this person went in March 2024, which was like the beginning of the hot and dry off season.
Okay.
And the good thing about that was that there weren't many crowds.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah. So they were able to have like a more personal experience at the temples.
Yeah, that's always a plus.
Yeah. But they did some research later
Okay.
and found out that the best time to visit Chiang Mai is actually from November to February.
So like our winter.
Yeah, basically.
Interesting.
Yeah, because the weather's nicer then.
Right, makes sense.
Yeah. So if you're thinking about going, keep that in mind.
Good tip. Yeah. I mean, traveling during the off-season can be nice because there are fewer tourists.
Yeah.
But if you're not prepared for the weather, it can really make or break your trip.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And they also mentioned that they felt safe walking around the old city at night.
Oh, good.
Yeah, even though there weren't that many people around.
Okay.
They said that most of the people they did see just kind of kept to themselves.
That's nice.
Yeah, so it sounds like a pretty peaceful place.
It does.
And I think that's good to know.
Yeah, definitely. Especially if you're thinking about exploring the city after dark.
Right.
It's always good to feel safe.
For sure.
So it sounds like they had a good experience overall.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah.
Oh, and then there was one last thing.
Okay.
This is kind of a cool little architectural detail.
Okay, I love those.
So they point out that the square shape of the city
Uh-huh.
is actually a characteristic of ancient Chinese capital cities.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah. And I think it's really interesting because it kind of gives you this broader historical context.
It does?
Makes you think about like potential influences
Right.
on the planning and layout of Chiang Mai.
Right. Like maybe they got the idea from China or something.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a great point because it reminds us that, historical developments don't happen in a vacuum.
Yeah.
It's like architectural ideas and stuff have always been shared and adapted across different cultures.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, that's fascinating.
So overall,
Yeah.
I think we learned a lot from this person's account.
We did.
I mean, Chiang Mai Old City
Yeah.
definitely seems like a place that's full of history and culture.
Absolutely.
And I think they did a good job of capturing,
Yeah.
that mix of old and new that you find there.
They did. Yeah. And the little details that they included really brought it to life for me.
Yeah, me too. And it made me want to go visit.
Yeah, me too.
So, here's something to think about.
Okay.
We've seen how Chiang Mai Old City blends tradition and modernity
Right.
in such a fascinating way.
Yeah.
So what other ancient cities around the world might have similar contrasts?
Ooh, good question.
Or even untold stories,
Hmm.
just waiting to be discovered.
Yeah. I mean, there's got to be so many places like that out there,
Right.
just waiting for us to explore them
Yeah.
and learn about their history.
Yeah, and it makes you wonder what kind of secrets are hidden
Right.
within the urban landscapes that we see every day.
That's a great point.
Yeah. So maybe next time you're walking around your city,
Yeah.
take a closer look and see what you can find.
I will.
Awesome.
I'm going to be looking at everything differently now.
Right.
Yeah,
Thanks for joining me.
of course.
And until next time, keep diving.
Yeah, keep diving.
Bye.
See you.